Friday had finally arrived, and the CNI unit was at the final phase of its construction. The upper rotation arm had been installed, and the final parts of the injection apparatus was currently being worked on by Lisa. Lynn and the rest of her sisters, 2 days ago, Lisa had melted the iron inside the mini furnace, and then had Lynn pour the molten lava metal into the cylindrical mold, and forming a long piece of pipe that was about 3 feet long. After the pipe cooled overnight, Lisa and her sister began assembling the vital components for the inside of the injection apparatus. This took about a lot longer than expected, since the parts were the most important of the machine. 2 days, in fact, the pipe had to cool down over Tuesday night. Then Lisa and her sisters began installing the components inside it. Wires, tubes, and various other parts that Lisa's sisters didn't recognize were all inserted properly and installed into 2 places inside the iron machine. And Lana had helped with the welding of some larger parts of the apparatus, since she was more skilled at handling welding tools. And Lynn had helped screw the injection hose into the analyte synthesizer for the rear side of the injection apparatus. Can you believe how awesome this is? All we gotta do is install the injection apparatus and its inner workings are fully example, and the machine is done, Lana said proudly. Our brother is in good and saved, Lola added. Don't rush yourselves too much. We're not done yet, Lisa reminded them. Be careful while doing the wiring. I don't want to risk it damaging the machine. Don't worry, sis, Lana assured him. I got this. I'm an expert at this kind of stuff. Lana carefully attached the wires to the correct parts of the long cylinder, then slid in a thick nanolite pipeline throughout every center of the papyrus, which had been placed into the end where the injection needle would be attached. Lisa had designed the papyrus with the injection needle to be screwed in the front of the papyrus, so to be removed after use to be sanitized and after decontaminated once the inner workings of the papyrus has been complete, which only took about an hour and 30 minutes. Lisa installed it and had the rotating cone at the end of the upper rotating of the arm machine. Once it was assembled and the papyrus had fully secured the place, Lisa hung the long nemeline hose at the set of the build of the hooks and held it up just off the ground. At long at last, after spending all of spring break and then this week, the CNI unit had reached completion, and Lisa and her sisters couldn't have been excited and happier. All that was left was to test it. Siblings, our work here is officially done. I'd like to thank you all for assisting me. If it weren't for you, it would have taken me much longer to complete this machine on my own. But thanks to you, I have fully constructed this machine with 1 week and this month left to spare. Here, Lisa said proudly, and gazed up now at the complete CNI unit. Lori, this is so amazing. We did it, Lenny cheered, jumping for joy. Our brother will soon return to the light, Lucy said. As Lisa's other siblings began celebrating their hard work, Lisa clapped her hands to get their attention. Siblings, let's calm ourselves. The CNI unit still needs to be tested before I can have it shipped to the hospital, she announced. Her sisters calmed down as they fetched a tool from nearby and placed it over the control panel, leading it down back to the machine, then stepped on it to reach it. Do you think it'll work, Lisa? Lori wondered. It should, Lisa said. The lithium battery is fully charged when I installed it, so the machine would power up without any problems. Let's just hope it doesn't explode like your past inventions, Luna said worriedly. You think we did everything right? Lynn added. There's only one way to find out. Lisa then tapped a few buttons on the control panel and flipped on the switch to the top left. Then the screen lit up with a large electronic beep. The navigational headlights on the front of the machine switched on automatically as well, letting them all know that it was fully functional. The main sensor array that also lit up with a blue gentle light. It looks like it's working, Lisa informed her sisters. The machine powered up without any problems. Now let's try moving the upper rotation arms. Lisa tapped on a few options in the control panel and saw 2 right and left arrows near the bottom of the screen. She pressed them and the upper arm of the machine moved slowly in the direction Lisa chose. The injection apparatus would also be rotated left or right as well. The upper arm in the injection apparatus appears to be working without a problem. I shall now test the main lift arm for the CNI unit, Lisa reported. Once Lisa selected the option, she selected to test the movement of the main arm connected from the lower part of the machine to the main synchronizing system unit above. It then moved up and down without any problems, and now with much to Lisa and her sister's relief at the last part of the testing phase was resolved to be extending the entire unit back and forward, just allowing the injection apparatus to insert and remove the large injection needle into the patient's brain. Unlike the other frames of the machine, the extender moved much slower. It was to ensure that the CNI unit didn't damage the patient's brain and accidentally inserting the needle in too deep. The machine was whirled into slowly, extended outwards. It was once extended inwards towards the desired length. Lisa let go of the small lever and extended, locked into the unit in place. The safety locks seemed to be doing well. Now I just gotta retract the unit, Lisa said, tapping the control panel again. She pulled the small lever in reverse and slowly retracted the unit back until it was slowly, without any problems, and eventually looked back in place. Siblings, Lisa began, grinning with satisfaction. The CNI unit is fully operational and functioning perfectly. All that's left for me to do is enter the manual's design and blueprints to the CNI unit computer, so that way we can replace the nanits needed for the surgery. Then the machine could be shipped to the hospital. Lisa's sisters all cheered in triumph at the amazing news. Even Lisa herself couldn't help but do the same. She and her siblings have achieved something that many others would only dream of doing. They had all worked together out of fear and out of their hope of their dear brother. In doing so, they had successfully constructed a medical machine far more advanced technology than most wouldn't possibly exist in their current day and age. If this machine worked, Lisa and her entire family would be famous, and Lincoln would be back to his normal self again. "Hey girls, what's all the commotion here?" a voice asked from behind them. It was Rita. Lisa turned to face Rita, both looking pleased and surprised. "Ah, you're just in time, Mother," she grinned, nodding at the CNI unit. "I am pleased to announce to you that the CNI unit is fully complete and operational. I have tested all of its main functions, and now it's all ready to be shipped to the hospital once I upload the Manite blueprints into the main computer, allowing the syphonizer to repopulate the nanites needed for the surgical procedures. Our work here is officially done." Rita stared at the CNI unit, completely awed and intrigued by the advanced piece of technology. Right in front of her very eyes, up to this point, Rita had only seen the images of the machines from Lisa's laptop, but upon seeing it close and complete, and quite another, it was something like right out of a sci-fi novel. The CNI unit was about to have the same size as the height as a dentist chair, like the ones in the dental clinic. Rita looked. Only instead of the light at the end of the rotation arm, there was an injection of pyrus with the bolt attached to the injection needle. "Lisa, this is amazing. You actually built this thing on your own?" Rita asked, greatly intrigued. "Correction. Me and my siblings did. I had to guide them through most of them through the tough stuff, but with their help, I managed to complete the machine without any issues," Lisa explained. "Wow, this is incredible, Lisa. You sure it will work?" Rita wondered. "I have tested the machines on primary functions and they all working perfectly. Once the NI blueprints files have been uploaded into the CNI unit's main computer, it'll be ready to use on a live patient. And in this case, it will be Lincoln that I will be first using it as," Lisa answered. "Incredible. I didn't think you would be able to complete it that quickly. You sure your sisters know what they were doing?" Rita asked cautiously. "Indeed. I guided my sisters through the difficult parts of the machine and constructed and made sure that nothing would go wrong. And I must say they rather did well," Lisa explained. Rita felt a huge sense of relief and excitement rush over her, and she realized that meant Lincoln could possibly now be saved from death, and it owed her to Lisa and her sisters. Well, Lisa was mainly the one who did most of the work. Her sisters had a hand in helping her, so Rita made a note to thank all of them for their hard work. While Rita still didn't know exactly what to expect when the machine was used during Lincoln's surgery, she had a feeling that things would turn out fine at the end. But Rita still wanted the last bit of the clarification. She wanted to know if the machine inactive before letting Lisa use on Lincoln, due to how many of Lisa's past inventions usually went completely haywire or straight up failed. Rita just wanted to make absolutely sure that the CNI unit wouldn't harm Lincoln in any way. "Lisa, do you mind showing us how this machine works? I just want to see if this machine's safe," Rita asked, sounding a bit nervous. "I have no problem with that, though I do notice you're distressed right now. Mind telling me what's wrong?" Lisa asked. "You're afraid the machine won't work?" Luna asked Rita. "Lisa tested before you got home, and it works really well," Lenny informed. "She's right, Mom. I never thought I'd say this, but I think Lisa knows what she's doing," Lori added. "I don't doubt that Lisa did an excellent job on building the machine and getting to work on it properly, but I just wanted to see it for myself, and I want to make absolutely sure that nothing goes wrong," Rita insisted. "Very well, if you insist. I shall demonstrate the machine operations, although I wouldn't be able to use the N90 injector since there are no N9s inside the machine, nor a patient has used it on. I can only show you the basics, such as maneuvering the upper and lower rotation arms, extending the unit outward and inward," Lisa informed Rita. "That'll be fine," Rita agreed. Lisa stood in front of the metal stool and began working on the controls over the rotation arm. It slowly moved left and right, and then she moved the main unit arm up to connect it to the bottom of the machine. And then the main unit was another joystick on the upper side of the control panel. Rita was greatly impressed and amused by this amazing accomplishment with Lisa's help. Up until this point, she had doubts whether or not Lisa would be able to complete it fully before her, as this was far more advanced, but any doubts Rita had went through the window at the moment she saw Lisa's demonstration of the CNI unit in action. As you can see, this machine is functioning perfectly well. No flaws or errors were detected in my earlier tests. So it's for sure to say that the CNI unit is fully functional and ready to be used on Lincoln. Once the blueprints are scanned into the machine's programming, Lisa reported. That's amazing, Lisa. I never knew this would be possible. I didn't think you would do something this far advanced could be actually created. Much less work, Rita replied, completely awed by this magnificent achievement of Lisa's. You're really something, Lisa. So you're around the other siblings. I have never imagined they'd be able to help construct such an advanced piece of machinery, given how complex and advanced that this design really is. But you managed to improve me wrong. Lisa and her sisters felt proud for being a big accomplishment by this. The Loud sisters had done something that many others would deem impossible to accomplish, but their desire and determination to save their brother allowed them to achieve as much as possible. This they already succeed on building a machine that no one ever thought could possibly work, let alone exist in this current day of age. Lisa had no doubt that she would be famous along with the medical industry once that she learned of her success in the building such advanced as the machine like the CNI unit. Yet she had to give her other sisters credit for it as well. While they helped each other out building the machine too, but Lisa knew that the fame and fortune would have to wait. Lincoln was in her top priority at the moment, and the rest of her sisters know that as well. So when will we could bring this machine to the hospital? Lana wondered. Yeah, Lola asked. But how exactly will we get it over? It's obviously too big to fit in the machine. She has a point there, Luan agreed. The hospital will transport it there since it can be transported by the van, as Lola pointed out. Once I've scanned and programmed the nanite blueprints into the CNI unit's main computer, I will notify the hospital and send it over the transport vehicle to bring the machine over to the hospital, Lisa explained. How long does the scanning and programming take? Lenny wondered. About an hour at best. But once it's done, I will phone the hospital and tell them about the CNI unit is ready for transportation, Lisa replied. It's already 6 p.m. Will the hospital even be open around 7? Lori asked Lisa. Yes, they close at 9 p.m., so I should have some time for this machine to be delivered before the hospital closes down for the night, Lisa replied. You should probably eat something before uploading the blueprints to the CNI unit's programming, Luna suggested. You haven't eaten anything since this morning. You do have a point there, Lisa agreed. If I eat quickly enough, I should have more time to complete the machine's programming. Speaking of food, what are we going to have for dinner? I'm a bit famished, Lana wondered. How does pizza sound? You girls all worked yourselves of helping Lisa with the machine, so I think you all deserve something nice, Rita suggested. All the girls happily agreed and headed inside with Lisa following behind them. Once inside the house, Lisa headed towards upstairs and a bit from all of her hard work, and she couldn't have been happier. It only took her 2 weeks. With the help of her sisters, Lisa's invention had been finally completed. Once the CNI unit was shipped over to the hospital and the operation was ready to save Lincoln, before it could be performed at last, while many of Lincoln's sisters were still nervous about the idea that something could go wrong, Lisa was fully confident that Lincoln's surgery would be a success. The same couldn't be said for Rita and Lynn Sr., though. While Rita was still amazed that Lisa was able to successfully create such an advanced technology machine, but she was still afraid that the end result would be once it was used on Lincoln. While Lisa insisted the machine was safe, Rita was still worried that something might go wrong during Lincoln's surgery since Lisa's past inventions never really worked for the first time around. Lynn Sr. worried about the same thing as well. Once he arrived a few minutes later, after Lisa and her sisters headed inside, Rita informed that the CNI unit had been fully completed. Lynn Sr. was impressed and overjoyed, but also wondered if the machine was safe as well. As Lori ordered a few pizzas downstairs, Rita and Lynn Sr. entered their room out of their change of their work clothes. So I hear Lisa finally complete that machine of hers. Does it work? Lynn Sr. asked Rita curiously. Yes, she followed me in the machine in action, and I never thought I'd say this, but this invention of hers must be the best one she came up with, Rita answered. Yes, I'll admit most of the inventions she made in the past weren't really successful, but I could trust her that this one, given how eager she is to save Lincoln's life, Len confessed. All of us are eager to save Lincoln, Rita replied. I'll admit that Lisa is probably the best one to come up with the CNI unit. No other medical genius around I know could pull this off. Do you honestly believe that machine will work? It will possibly cure Lincoln's brain damage? Lynn Sr. asked. To be completely honest, I believe there is a high chance that it very well will work. I know something like this would normally seem to be absurd, but since Lisa was the one who created it, I think the machine will be a success, Rita admitted it. So you're saying you believe it'll just work just because Lisa's the one who built it? I'm sure the other inventors who will find out who come up with this machine, Lynn Sr. wondered. I honestly doubt that anyone else would have come up with that idea, building such advanced machine as this. Lisa felt and put a lot more effort and time into the blueprints, scans, and even designs for it. I personally believe that she only would have pulled something out like this if it was off, let alone even thought of it, Rita answered. Well, I sure hope that hard work pays off. If Lisa's machine works, Lincoln's life will be saved, Lynn Sr. said. I can't tell you how much I'm praying for that. I just can bear the thought of losing our only son, Rita replied with a worried tone. Nor can I, Lynn Sr. admitted it. I've had nightmares a few nights about Lincoln dying in the hospital from that brain hemorrhage in his head. I really hope Lisa knows what she's doing. I have complete faith in Lisa that things will not go wrong. I know for some of her experiments and the inventions in the past have been completely bizarre and sometimes dangerous, but in this case, I believe Lisa knows what she's doing, Rita said. Let's just hope that faith is upon us, or we could lose Lincoln, Lynn Sr. replied. As the two of them continued, chatting while changing, Lucy listened to what they were saying outside the vents, growing a bit nervous as she did so. While Lucy did not usually take the type of person to grow anxious and nervous that easily, this scenario struck out easily despite the CNI unit working without any issues. Lucy was still worried that Lincoln might not make it for the surgery. She had her own doubts of the CNI unit and officially about whether or not it would actually be successful in saving Lincoln's life. Lucy didn't personally believe something like this could actually work. Given how the idea of Mennonites repairing the brain damage, they didn't seem possible in the current time of age. But there were many times where Lucy found many of Lisa's ideas to be crazy yet impossible, yet finding herself wondering if maybe this would be the chance actually to make a difference compared to Lisa's other past inventions. The CNI unit honestly seemed like a crazy idea, at least to Lucy, but there was a chance that it would actually save Lincoln's life. Lisa would be in forever in family's gratitude. You're a crazy scientist, Lisa. I just hope you know what you're doing, or our brother will be slumbering eternity, Lucy muttered to herself. 40 minutes after the pizza was arrived, and Lisa ate a few pieces, while the rest of the family chowed down. As soon as Lisa finished eating, she rushed back into the garage and began programming the Mennonite blueprints into the CNI unit's main computer. She connected the laptop to the CNI unit along with the long USB cable and got to work. As Lisa was busy programming the CNI unit with the blueprints, her other sisters were currently in each other's rooms talking about Lincoln. Lucy had retreated inside her coffin bed, writing grim poems based on the predictions about Lincoln's upcoming surgery. As for Luan, she sat in her room with her dummy Mr. Coconuts, chatting about how eager she was to see her brother back to normal once the CNI unit was given its first test run on Lincoln. I hope this invention of Lisa's works. I know her machine of hers is observed, but I have a feeling it just might work, Luan said to Mr. Coconuts. It definitely seems wacky if you ask me, Mr. Coconuts mimed, but if anyone can save Lincoln, Lisa definitely can. I really hope so, Luan sighed. I'm the one who got in this horrible mess in the first place, and Lisa's been working like crazy to fix it. She's basically trying to fix my mistake, and I can only wish I could do more to help. Well, technically you did, Luan made Mr. Coconut say, and your sisters assisted Lisa in building that machine of hers, so that kind of counts. Yeah, I guess so, Luan replied, walking over towards the window and gazing down at the garage. I just wish I could have done better yet, I wish I could have stopped pranking altogether, and Lincoln's accident could have been avoided then. Aw, don't tear yourself apart, Luan. You know how that Phrygia incident wasn't intentional, Mr. Coconuts murmured, sounding a bit comforting as Luan made him sound. I know, but I still feel terrible about it. And what makes it even worse is that the last thing I did before Lincoln suffered from that horrible accident, Luan said, recalling Lincoln's stuffed rabbit, What did you possibly have done so horrible? The dummy mimicked to Luan's voice. I ended up damaging his stuffed rabbit, Bun Bun, Luan stammered, almost at the verge of tears. I placed him on the explosive party ball inside Lincoln's room, and just ended up nearly destroying Bun Bun when the whole firecrackers that had exploded did and burst the ball open. Lincoln was so angry and upset, I didn't know what to do in response. So I just laughed at the whole thing like if it was a big joke. My feelings were hurt, and I just laughed at him right then, and he Luan paused as she remembered what happened right after Lincoln discovered Bun Bun inside the party ball. He had stormed out of the room rage over Bun Bun and being damaged by the firecrackers inside the party ball, demanding that Luan had come out of her hiding. After that, Lincoln had stomped downstairs into the kitchen, where he tripped over some of the wire and slipped across the floor and hit the fridge, causing it to fall on him and almost killed him in the process. That would have been one thing that haunted Luan the most. She still remembered that very moment when the fridge had fallen on Lincoln, his screams of pain and agony, and then the horrible crunching sound of his bone breaking before just going silent. Just making thinking about it nearly made Luan break down into tears. She even had a few nightmares over it. Man, that's horrible, Mr. Coconut's mimicked in the sad voice. Luan tried not to break in tears. I know, Luan sniffled. It hurt Lincoln so badly he might not be the same again. Even if Lisa's machine works in restoring his mindset, he'll never be able to move without a wheelchair because of me. Well, at least you apologized to him and repaired Bun Bun, Luan made Mr. Coconut say. Yes, but I don't even know if Lincoln understood the meaning of forgiveness at the time, since his mindset is that of a toddler. He seemed to still recognize Bun Bun, though, Luan replied. Lincoln might understand forgiveness again if Lisa's invention works, Mr. Coconut's mimicked the more cheerful voice. I hope so, Luan said, noticing the movement throughout the garage door or window as Lisa moved inside. Hey, cheer up, friend. I am sure Lisa knows what she's doing. If anyone can save Lincoln, it's Lisa, Mr. Coconut assured Luan. Luan said nothing and just sat Mr. Coconut down on her bed. She just thought back to the dream she had a while ago, that she and Lincoln had met up in that mystical fountain in the so-called dream realm. Lincoln had said to Lisa that she would save his life. Yet Luan knew it had only been a dream, and it wasn't a full guarantee that nothing would go wrong. The only thing Luan could only do is hope and pray that Lincoln's upcoming surgery would go well without any problems. She glanced out the window for a brief moment, and then at the garage window, wondering how Lisa was progressing on the last stages of the machine's preparation, which entering the man-made blueprints into his own main programming. Lisa had mentioned earlier that the process wouldn't take more than an hour. Then the CNI unit would be shipped off to the hospital afterwards. I hope all that hard work was worth it, Luan said to herself. If it doesn't work, I don't know what will.